Hello, my Aloha tribe, and welcome to the Aloha Perspective, where you get a little bit of something and a whole lot of everything. Happy Tuesday. Take two. So sorry about that. I had to take a call. So from baby sibling. But anyways, sometimes it is hard to, she's so busy all the time that when she calls, I just got to take the call. So, yeah, good morning, Muddy. I saw you pop on. Older sibling just texted me, are you doing your show? I'm like, yeah, I had to, it's like I said, life happens, right? So what I've been working on pretty much all weekend, and I ended up starting over yesterday, pride flags. I did not know the rabbit hole I would be going down with pride flags. So anyways, the information I got, and I apologize ahead of time, guys, if I did not get every flag, if I forgot, if I missed, I don't want to say forgot, if I missed a flag that represents you that is not in here, I do apologize. Do you see this thick stack? I am not an artist by any stretch of the imagination, but I can draw colors online. So also, if some of the colors don't match, I do apologize. On the computer, I think they translate a little bit differently. So, and I do not have a special computerized color palette in my pencil box. So, but I want to do a shout out to my cousin Carrie, who gave me like 100 pencil set. Oh my God, I was having so much fun with it yesterday, but it was like, every time I'd scroll down, it's like, there's another flag. So anyways, I'm going to read you something and then we'll jump into it. So grab your tea, grab your drink, whatever it is you want to partake in, sit back, because this is going to take a while. All right. So, the two places I got my information from was rainbowandcompany.uk. It's a blog. And the other one is outrightinternational.org. So outrightinternational.org is where I got my first information. And then I found other flags on the other site, which interestingly enough, rainbowandcompany.uk did not have the transgender flag on there. So I found that interesting, but I do know it. So I put it on there. So let's see. Outright is dedicated to working with partners around the globe to strengthen the capacity of the LGBTQ human rights movement, document and amplify human rights violations against LGBTQ people, and advocate for inclusion and equality. Outright was launched in 1990 by U.S. activist Julie Dorff and was initially known as the International Gay and Lesbian Human Rights Commission. You can read more about their story at outrightinternational.org. Okay, so the pride flags, they are a visible representation meant to celebrate progress, advocate for representation, and amplify the demand and drive for collective action. There have been many LGBTQIA plus flags over the years. Some have evolved, while others have constantly been conceptualized and created. So I put a note in here. All right, my Padres. My number one team is the San Diego Padres in baseball. My number two team is the Angels, because I do live up in that area. I do not live far from Angel Stadium, and when I'm home. But yeah, my Padres were in San Francisco, and San Francisco is known to have a very large LGBTQIA plus community, and what I loved is they had the pride flag up there. They had the progress pride flag, which I will show you in just a moment when we get to the P's. They are in alphabetical order, I admit. And in their outfield, they had their SF logo in pride colors and in progress pride flag colors. So shout out to the Giants for that, because I love that they see their community. I love that they're willing to do that. Just as a reference, Fernando Tatis Jr., who is our right fielder, is about 6'3" or so. And standing next to that sign, the SF logo is a little bit bigger than he is. So that's a lot of logo right there in certain parts of the outfield that are representing a very marginalized community in this world. I know a lot of people don't think about it because we do live in the United States, and for the most part, in most places, our LGBTQ community is, I don't want to say safe, but relatively safe. Now, that's kind of stretching it a bit, especially in the country I live in right now, in this current, state that we're in. Not state itself, not the state, but the current, era of authoritarianism that we're living in right now. Forgive me, I know, a little bit of a jab there. But anyways, I don't want to go down that road again. I said everything I had to say yesterday. I'm still very angry about it. There is only one thing I do want to add, and that I did, when I was talking yesterday about how somebody goes off and takes his wife and then sneaks out. You know what? I don't care how many times you're married. All right. But I think what bothers me is that people think this guy is the Messiah, and that drives me nuts because he's anything but. So if you think that, I will send out good thoughts for you and prayers and all that other stuff. So I know I'm being a little judgy. I'm still a little angry about what's happening in my county or in my country, in my state, even right now. So, yeah, getting off my soapbox. Let's get to the pride flags. We have a lot. I believe at last count, there were 36 flags. So here's the thing. You're probably thinking, why are there so many damn flags? I know. I was thinking that. I mean, not to discard them or anything, but I was like, wow, that is a lot of flags. But imagine feeling a certain way or identifying a certain way and just not feeling seen by the flag that you were born under. The US flag, the, British flag, the Australian flag, the Russian flag, the Chinese flag, the Japanese flag, the Korean flag, the North Korean flag, any of these flags. Imagine not feeling seen. So you create a flag for yourself because you have a community now. You have a community that's not going to judge you for the way you identify, the way you feel, the way you think. They're just there for you until we can unite everybody under their country's flags, until we can unite everybody who's not going to sit there and, weaponize the Bible to, basically try to justify their hate towards a very marginalized community. Last week, Bestie says, we're fine. Well, you know what? I don't really think they are. He might be, but there's a lot of people who don't feel safe. Look at what happened to Matthew Shepard, about 20 some odd years ago. He got beaten to a pulp and left on a fence to die. Okay, his mother since started a foundation, all these things. Or the little boy who got AIDS through a transmission, right? A blood transfusion, I should say. And he was ostracized. It's a disease. And sure, it's been known as the gay cancer, but it's everybody's disease. That's like saying cancer is only to certain people. The only people who have cancers exclusively to their sex are men who get prostate cancer and women who get uterine cancer or ovarian cancer. Okay? Those are the only kind of people where it's just in there. But diseases happen. So we need to not marginalize our people. We need to love them and openly accept them and just be there for them. And so this is why this large stack of flags, I took the time to do them. In fact, I was working on them into last night because I went back to the other site and I'm like, oh my God, there's flags that were not in there. So anyways, let's just go. This one is abrosexual. Okay, abrosexual. I don't know if you can see it. So, and like I said, I give myself an A for effort for just trying to do a flag. I tried to make it look like a waving flag and I thought, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to color in the bars. All right, so abrosexual is someone who is sexually fluid or changeable. For example, one day they might identify as asexual, the next as lesbian, and the next as pansexual. Abrosexual people can fluctuate between all sexualities or just a few. The timing between fluctuations can also vary. I found that one interesting. I found that one really interesting. Good morning, older sibling. So a gender flag. Okay. Unveiled in 2014 and designed by Salem X, it represents the absence of gender, semi-genderlessness, and non-binary genders. Androphilic and androsexual. Describes someone who is primarily attracted to masculinity, be this sexually, romantic, or aesthetically. These terms are particularly useful for people who identify outside of the gender binary, as unlike terms like gay or lesbian, they refer only to the presentation of the person someone is attracted to and not the person themselves. For example, both heterosexual women and homosexual men can be referred to as androphilic or androsexual. So see, as a heterosexual woman, some of these flags would probably be something I could identify with, like this, right? Because you're attracted to masculinity. Well, to the male, okay? Aroace. Aroace. Short for aromatic asexual, which means someone who experiences little or no romantic and sexual attraction. That just feels sad. But hey, no judgment here, all right? Aeroflux. You know, some of these colors are really interesting. Some of these, you know, like some of the colors. And the reason I gave you the sites, especially outright.org. Now, outright.org won't have all of them that Rainbow and Company.uk had, but they do explain the colors in outright.org. It's just that would have taken too long. So someone whose romantic orientation fluctuates but generally stays on the aromantic spectrum. They may feel strongly aromatic one day and less on another day. So, you know what's funny? When I was doing these, I kept thinking about Sheldon Cooper, right? And fun with flags. But also, Jim Parsons is a part of the LGBTQ plus community. So, you know, I think Sheldon Cooper would be proud of me. So let's see. This one is aromantic. Someone who does not experience romantic attraction. They may experience sexual and or aesthetic attraction, but not romantic attraction. Asexual. Now, when I first saw asexual, I thought that was interesting because there are animals out there, and no, I don't mean that in a mean way. There are species that are what they refer to, I believe, as asexual, and they can change sexes. If you've seen Jurassic Park, then you will understand what I'm talking about, because there are some that if, like, say there's a community of frogs, right? There's a community of frogs and oops, they're all boys. They can spontaneously change their sex to become a female or vice versa. All right. I know that's not really the science-y way of putting it, but you can look that up because it's really interesting. That's the whole thing, right? In one of the Jurassic Park movies, because they used amphibian DNA. So amphibians are interesting creatures. So asexual. Someone who does not experience sexual attraction. They may experience romantic and or aesthetic attraction, but not sexual attraction. So if you ever watch The Big Bang Theory, this is kind of Sheldon, right? You know, when he first met Amy, it was kind of like he was so attracted to her brain. But then later, you know, slowly as he grew and had growth, he changed. But at the beginning, no. Bisexual. So this one I'm familiar with. Bisexual. I'm familiar with all the regular letters in there. LGBTQ. Well, actually the Q kind of confused me for a bit, but we will get to that one. And, you know, then I had to look up I, because I was like, what does I mean? And that one will be in there also. And then A, which I think are all the A's. And then plus, because there's a lot of pluses. There's a lot of pluses. We are only on the B's, all right? So bisexual, someone sexually attracted to more than one gender and is inclusive of all genders. Therefore, bifolk can be attracted to people from right across the gender spectrum. This flag was created in 1998 by Michael Page. All right. So here's the other thing. Some of these flags feel like they can be interchangeable, or that, because there's also pansexual, and people might say, but pansexual sounds a lot like bisexual, but we'll get there. All right. Demisexual. Demisexual. Someone who only experiences sexual attraction to someone once they have created a romantic or platonic relationship with them. That could be a lot of us. Like, you know, this feels like it goes with monogamy, right? Like the monogamous people in the world. But it represents a group because it doesn't, you know, could be women and women, men and men. It could be men and women. So this really kind of covers the spectrum of, you know, people. So, I kind of, so, you know, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, but it's an interesting concept and I really like it. So demi-romantic. demi-romantic, someone who does not experience romantic attraction until they have formed a strong connection with a partner. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, this is why I'm saying a lot of these flags could actually pertain to heterosexual people. So finsexual, I know that's a lot of stripes. Exclusive attraction to those who are feminine in nature, hence fin, F-I-N, feminine in nature. This means finsexual people are attracted to women, feminine aligned and or feminine presenting non-binary people, and potentially feminine men. Here's one that everybody will recognize. The pride flag. You know what I did forget? And I apologize for this. I forgot to do the ally flag. We have a flag. The allies have a flag. And basically it's just like an A on pretty much any flag. If you put an A on the flag, it's an ally flag. But those are all the ones I saw. And I was just like, oh, this is so overwhelming because there's too many. So if you put like and really the A looks more like an upside down V. Okay, so it's just, that represents the ally flag. So we have a flag too. So someone attracted to the same gender as themselves. Oh, this is the gay and homosexual flag, but it has also become here, I'll read it. Someone attracted to the same gender as themselves. The rainbow flag is also used to represent the LGBTQIA plus community as a whole. Created in 1978 by Gilbert Baker. So for those of you not in the know, L, lesbian, G for gay, B for bisexual, T for transgender, Q used to be questioning. I always thought it was questioning, but it also stands for queer. I for intersex and A for asexual plus. And then I put my little plus over there. Now this is interesting. Gay male or Vincian. Gay male or Vincian. Vincian is a term used to describe gay men or men-aligned people, often used as the masculine equivalent of lesbian. The gender fluid flag. The gender fluid flag. They got some pretty colors in these. Created in 2012 by J.J. Poole, it represents feminine and masculine as well as both combined. It also represents those who do not associate with a gender. The white stripe includes all genders. So gender fluid is kind of, it's just, maybe you don't identify with any specific gender. Now, I have a thought on this, okay? So if you jump into the metaphysical realm of thinking, they have what they call star seeds and I can't think of the other word. Star seeds and I can't think of it. Is slipping my mind right now, probably because it doesn't want me. My brain is just like, you need to stay on point. But the whole thing is star seeds, and I can't remember what the other one is, but a lot of people believe that they're crystal children. That's it. I believe it's crystal children. And they're just kind of like the forward thinkers, right? They're just different. In my personal opinion, I think a lot of people who suffer from nonverbal or who deal with nonverbal autism, I truly believe, because I told Laura, I said, if you put several of them in a room, they somehow figure out how to talk to one another and communicate with one another. And I said, I feel like they're just living on a different frequency with the rest of us, but maybe their brain is so advanced, like maybe they're using all of it, that they can't come down to an area where they can communicate with us. That's just a thought. Now, I know you're going to think I'm out there, but hey, sciencey stuff, you never know. But if we don't look into it, how are we going to know? But yeah, sometimes I think that, a lot of people who, identify under a lot of these flags, even if it's not a sexual attraction or a romantic attraction right away, or just kind of, fluid, are really kind of these people who are just born with such forward thinking that it's like, this is just my casing. What my soul is my soul is just everything, right? So, genderqueer. Designed, this is really pretty, although it reminded me of Laker colors, but designed in 2011 by, excuse me, Marilyn Roxy. It represents androgyny as well as queer identities, as well as neutral identities. The flag also represents third gender identities outside of the gender binary. So, yeah. And, I'm reading a lot of these. A lot of it, I'll be honest, I don't understand. But that's one of the reasons I wanted to draw the flags and not just print them. Because I really wanted to understand and try to, and just try to familiarize myself. So, oh, thanks, Sammy. Sammy said that's a great thought about autistic persons. And, it's just something that's always kind of hit me left, right, and center. And every time I see it, because if you watch, they do. I mean, it's just like they're on this other beautiful level, but I can see how it can be frustrating for the parents because there is such a hard time of communication. And perhaps when they get a little combative or they get a little frustrated, it's because they probably really want to communicate, but they just can't. It's like they just can't bring themselves, nobody can find that middle ground where everybody needs to be. Sometimes I wonder if hypnotism would work. That'd be interesting. I don't know. My brain is going in all kinds of directions. Gray sexual refers to people who experience limited sexual attraction. They experience sexual attraction very rarely or with low intensity, also known as gray ace. So gynophilic and gynosexual. I think this one has to do with women. Someone who is primarily romantically, sexually, or aesthetically attracted to femininity. Intersex. The I in LGBTQIA+, the I. The flag was created in 2013 by Morgan Carpenter. The flag's colors, and I quote, seek to completely avoid anything to do with gender. It symbolizes completeness and our potentialities, according to Carpenter. So this part, the yellow, is to, remove the gender, to remove any association with gender. And the ring, the purple ring, it symbolizes completeness and potentiality. So, excuse me. Lesbians. We know lesbians, all right? That's another familiar one. But I did not know they had their own flag. It's pretty. Refers to women who are solely attracted to other women. However, some non-binary people can also identify as lesbian. This flag was created in 2018 by Tumblr blogger Emily Gwen. So, and again, if you want to know what some of the colors mean for some of the flags, like I said, outright.org doesn't have all the flags that I'm using on here because I got it from 2 different sites. But the ones they do, they will explain the colors, like the lesbian flag, the pride flag, the progressive pride flag. And I will try to share some of those, especially when we get to the progressive pride flag, because I found that very interesting. So lithosexual refers to a person who may experience sexual attraction but does not want it reciprocated, also known as acoisexual. I think I said that right. If I didn't, I apologize. But that's interesting. Refers to a person who may experience sexual attraction but does not want it reciprocated. Lithromantic. That looks like a country flag. Someone who may experience romantic attraction but does not want it reciprocated, also known as acoiromantic. So there you go. It's almost this. They almost kind of go together, but a little bit different. This one was sexual attraction but doesn't want it repeated or doesn't want it reciprocated, and this one is romantic attraction. Minsexual. Okay, now these are some of my favorite colors, so I had fun with this one. Minsexual, exclusive attraction to those who are masculine in nature, hence men, masculine in nature. This can include men, masculine aligned and or masculine presenting non-binary people, and potentially masculine women. Multisexual. So see, this is another one where it feels like bisexual and pansexual would go along with multisexual, but umbrella term for any form of attraction to more than one gender, also known as plurisexuality. So where bisexual is attraction to a man or a woman, This one could be like, you might be attracted to a trans woman or a trans man, or someone who might be asexual, or just, it covers every gender identity. So Neptunic, and more of my favorite colors, Neptunic. So I have to admit, when I saw Neptunic, the first thing I thought of was mermaids. And when I wrote this down, it kind of made sense. Refers to the attraction to women, feminine non-binary people, and neutral binary people. It can also be described as attraction to all except men and or masculine aligned non-binary people. So actually, I don't know why I thought mermaids, but for some reason I did. But yeah, and I think it's the whole Neptunic thing, but there's a lot of water stuff happening here. So, yeah, that's interesting though. It can also be described as attraction to all except men and or masculine aligned non-binary people. Ninsexual. So ninsexual is very familiar to Finn and Min. Okay, so this one is non-binary in nature, N-I-N. Exclusive attraction to those non-binary in nature. This includes people who are non-binary, neutral, androgynous, agender, anyone whose gender or presentation is androgynous. So, every time I see the word androgynous, and I promise I'm not poking fun, but I think about that old skit with, was it Julia Sweeney, where she played Pat? It's Pat. But, yeah, because nobody ever knew if Pat was a girl or a boy. But that's okay. And I know they were kind of poking fun at it back then, but I promise I'm not poking fun. It just made me think of that in my brain, But again, exclusive attraction to those non-binary in nature. So hence nin, non-binary in nature. Non-binary. We're on the ends now. We have been in the ends. Non-binary. Represents those whose genders do not exist within the binary. Created in 2014 by Kyle Rowan. So again, represents those whose genders do not exist within the binary. So omnisexual refers to a person who is attracted to all or any gender while still having a preference. That just feels very open and across the board. But refers to a person who is attracted to all or any gender while still having a preference, which kind of makes me think about pansexual, right? Someone who is attracted to all genders. The prefix pan, meaning all in Latin. Many pansexual people also describe themselves as being attracted to others based on their personality, not gender. This flag was adopted in 2010. They kind of feel like they go together, right? So, there is a bit of a crossover in some of these flags, which does kind of upend me and confuse me a little bit. Excuse me. But again, I'm not here to judge, because if you feel safe under any of these flags and you identify under any of these flags, that's the point. So this one was a fun one to draw. I had to draw the pi symbol. Not very good at drawing. Like I said, I give myself an A for effort. But yeah, so someone who is or desires to be in a consensual relationship with multiple partners. Polyamory is the opposite of monogamy. So I've known people who are polyamorous. If you kind of think about it, it's like these people, like, the sister wives, but in this case, it's any gender. It could be 3 women, it could be 2 men and a woman, it could be 2 women and a man, or a man. It could be more than that. I mean, usually it's about 3, but it could be a whole community of people that are just polyamorous. So polysexual refers to someone who is attracted to multiple genders, but not all genders. That's what I mean. It kind of confuses me, but I get it. So, maybe they are attracted to pansexual people or omnisexual people, but they may not be attracted to a feminine or masculine, right? So, it covers a lot of different things. This is one of my favorite ones. This one is probably actually my favorite. The Progress Pride Flag. Created in 2018 by non-binary artist Daniel Kazer, I'm not sure how to say that, I'm sorry. The Progress Pride flag is based on the iconic 1978 flag with black and brown stripes to represent the marginalized LGBTQIA plus community and the colors of the trans flag. The design represents diversity and inclusion. So that's what I always wondered, what the black and brown was supposed to be for. I guess I should have probably put that together, but yeah, that's to represent the more marginalized. And to be honest with you, people will sit there and go, well, I don't understand why they're more marginalized. There's a cultural thing here. Okay. So there is a huge cultural thing, and I don't want to get into different cultures, but, even the other day, right? So I have been binge watching a lot of shows that have either been on TV for a long time or are finished. And I'm in it was season 1 of Criminal Minds. I know that show's been on for like 18 years and I'm just starting it. But the family wouldn't talk to the son because he was gay. And we need to not be that way. We really need to not be that way. You know, I don't understand why people think it's a shame on our family. We need to break these cultural myths, you know, and stop making them a reality. People are people. You know, this is your family. Don't stop loving somebody because, you know, they don't fit what you want them to be. They don't fit your mold. Let them be who they want to be. I remember someone in my own family sent me a text when they were coming out to me, and they're all like, please don't hate me. And I was like, and I texted back, I'm like, why would I hate you? And they're all like, well, I'm gay. And I was like, okay. And I said, that's okay. And they're all, well, I didn't know how you take it. It's like, person, my best friend is gay. And the way he told me he was gay, he called me up and said, hey, you know, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to share this, but I'm going to share it. He said, oh, hey, guess what? I lost my virginity. And I said, oh, what's her name? Because I didn't know, right? Everybody I'd known, always dated girls. And he just go, Steve. And I'm like, okay. I didn't know what to do. I was 19. But I was like, okay. It shocked me for a moment because that's not what I was expecting. But it's like, all right, good for you. Good for you. You know, you're still bestie to me. You're still you to me, you know. And it's like, that's okay. That's okay. And, you know, that was my kind of first journey into it, aside from having an older cousin who did pass away. So, he's here. Oops. I hope I was allowed to share that, but it was funny. Oops. Well, that was weird, but it was funny. It was funny. I was just kind of like, okay. Thanks for shocking me. Couldn't just tell me, right? You had to sneak it in there. So the next flag is queer. That is a lot of stripes, guys. I mean, it's like 8 stripes, I think. Yeah, it's 8. No, wait, there's 9 because there's a white one in the middle. It always cracks me up. I'm not an artist, so I have to tell you, the white pencil just feels so stupid to me. I mean, I get it. If you're an artist, the white comes in handy. But for me, I literally was sitting there coloring in the white. And I'm like, why am I doing this? You can't even see it. So eventually I stopped. But, oh yeah, see, Troy could tell the story. But right now I got to finish these flags because we've been on for forever. Queer. So, an umbrella term for someone whose sexuality and or gender is not heterosexual, cisgender, and or allosexual. Queer has been used as a term of abuse against the LGBTQ plus community, but is now often used by members of the community who have reclaimed it. Good for you for reclaiming that. Also, cisgender, I did put this on here because I know a lot of people get confused on what cisgender means. Cisgender are those who identify with the sex they're assigned with at birth. So, you know, any one of us who are not transgender are basically cisgender. So there is cisgender and transgender obviously are people who are not comfortable with the sex they were assigned at birth. So again, across the board, it doesn't matter if you identify as, you know, being born as a girl and you are a girl, or being born as a boy and you are a boy, then you are cisgender, you know, even if you're a heterosexual. So, you know, sapphic. Now, I'm going to explain this. These flowers looked a lot prettier on the flag. I had to do a Shelley flower because this is basically my version of a stick figure. All right. Because I am not good at that. But, sapphic, pretty colors. Pretty, I don't know if you can see them. Pretty colors. Refers to a woman or a woman-aligned person who is attracted to other women or woman-aligned people. Also known as WLW. Oh, women-aligned people. Oh, or women-loving woman. Okay, I confused myself. Also known as WLW or woman-loving woman. So there you go. Never heard of this one, Saturnic, which it feels like it goes with my shirt, right? But again, I love this shirt. Safe space, all the flags done into planets, so I get to be a space nerd and a proud ally. The attraction to androgynous aligned non-binary people, mostly used by non-binary people to describe their attraction without relying on the gender binary. Transgender. So we know the transgender flag. A lot of controversy going along with the transgender stuff on all sides of the board. Thanks, bestie. I got it on Amazon, guys. It was like $14. I mean, like out the door, $14. I think it was like $12.99 out the door, and it's cheaper, but I'm a plus size girl, so I had to go with the larger size. And actually, I'm pretty impressed because it's kind of loose, so I'm very proud of myself. But I just want to talk about this one for a second, okay? A lot of people are saying, well, God doesn't make mistakes. God doesn't this. God doesn't that. You know what? Not everybody believes in God, okay? I truly believe that sometimes maybe a soul poofs into a body so fast that, maybe they're like, wait, I'm a this kind of soul and I want to stay this kind of soul. And maybe they're not ready to be a girl yet or ready to be a boy yet. But I have been following Jazz. Jazz Jensen, I believe is her last name, since she was a little girl, since they interviewed her when she was just a toddler. She was assigned a boy at birth, but she identifies as a girl. And her parents said, okay. And her parents struggled with it. A lot of people will sit there and argue and say, well, the parents just blah, blah, blah. No, the parents did struggle with it. Her family struggled with it. I believe she's the youngest. But she's also become a huge advocate for transgender people. And, we shouldn't judge. Like, we legit should not judge. I know a lot of people are sitting there going, oh, Jenkins, thank you, older sibling. I know, because older sibling and I watch I Am Jazz. But Jenkins, I was close. But you sure it's Jenkins? Okay, I'm sure she is, because sibling would know. But, Jazz is a huge advocate. She's had to deal with a lot of people that are, very anti-trans, and even people in the LGBT community that are anti-trans. So, on her show, she's shown a lot of people who decided to, who weren't allowed to transition when they were younger or be themselves. And the transition as an adult is a little bit different. Now, just to add to this, I have a friend who is a transgender, or who is a mom to transgender kids. And she's like, the hormone stuff, all of that is reversible. But people don't want to believe the science because they just need something to be mad about. All right. They'll always say, well, I don't want this person there, or they're dangerous, or they're... Let me tell you, my trauma was not caused by a transgender person. It was caused by a heterosexual person. So I'm more afraid of them than I am of the trans people. I have known trans people, a person that was transitioning from male to female to male. And older sibling has, back in a time when you really did not talk about it. There's that movie with Eddie Redmayne, I believe is it called The Danish Girl? I think. And Alicia Vikander, I think. Very good movie. It was sad, but a very good movie. But and then there's the woman who was so famous. I can't think of her name or their name. But we really just got to stop judging. All right. I remember this was funny. So Bestie and I, sometimes when we'd be bored, when we were younger, we would just call each other up and just, throw things. I mean, it got to the point where sometimes I think we just reached into a dictionary and just started throwing shit at each other. Just for giggles, really, to be honest with you and stuff. And I remember one time he's like, oh yeah, heterosexual? And I'm all like, I don't know why, but it's like, ouch, that kind of stung. But imagine that, right? Imagine that was just, Christine Jorgensen. Thank you, older sibling. God, sibling, you're like, you could write a paper on this. But anyways, I was dying. I was laughing so hard because I was like, man, but I thought, you know what? In that moment, it kind of did feel offensive. I mean, I wasn't offended, but it felt offensive in a way. And it's like, so imagine how a person who falls under the pride flag must really feel, who is part of this beautiful community. I watched a video the other day where this guy called them Rainbow Rangers, and I absolutely loved that. Rainbow Rangers. And, you know, if you look at all their flags, they really do cover so much, right? And we have the last one, Uranic. Uranic, I don't know, kind of reminds me of the Ukrainian flag in a small way. Refers to the attraction to men, masculine, non-binary people, and neutral non-binary people. Can also be described as attraction to all except women and or feminine aligned non-binary people. So it's basically, I guess, male non-binary people. So, you know, so again, like I said, I know a lot of these flags probably feel like they'd be a little confusing because a lot of them feel like they are interchangeable. But like I said, instead of judging the flag, imagine what it must feel like to be a person that's born under the flag of their country, but only feels comfortable under the flag they identify with, because they don't feel welcome, because they don't feel like they can be open. They don't feel like they can, you know, just be who they want to be. We owe it to one another as human beings to just let people be people. You know, I love the representation that, you know, not just in, you know, movies specifically geared towards the gay community, but, you know, TV shows that embrace this, you know, like same-sex relationships within, you know, just a storyline within the, you know, within the grand picture of the story. And I know people that just are like, oh, I can't stand it. It's like, you know what? This is reality. This is the world we live in. When I was growing up, people were still highly closeted, not as closeted as they were before my generation, I should say, but still very closeted. You know, they were living lives that didn't match them. And a lot of people get hurt in that because they're expected to be a certain group of people. Yes, and here we go again. Exactly what Sammy said yesterday. Live and let live, love and let love. Right? Well, the one thing I love about this shirt, I mean, yeah, it says safe space, right? And these are all the different planets, you know, just represented by the different, all these planets represent the different flags. And like I said, it ties into me being a space nerd, and it also ties into my support of the LGBT community. But imagine, you know, this whole interplanetary thing, pointing my own globes, but you know, just imagine if we could just love one another. If we just, you know, you see a star out there and you don't know which star it is. You don't know, you know, if it has a name or what it was or if it ever inhabited life. We don't know these things. But we judge it and say, oh, they're twinkling, so they're so pretty. So why can't we just look at one another and not worry about, you know, their gender or not worry about how they identify and just treat them like human beings that they are? Respect them. Stop sitting there and saying, well, we're doing it for the children. Sometimes you're hurting the children more than you're helping them. Banning books, banning drag queens from reading to kids. Come on, seriously? I would say that 99.9% of the time, they are not the ones you need to worry about. But the thing is, I think it threatens other people's sexuality. I had my last boyfriend that I dated, long time ago. His best friend walks into a bar one day. This sounds like a joke, but it actually is pretty funny. And there was a video on, and he's just like, you know, he could be pretty profane, which, you know, you've heard my mouth. But he's like, oh yeah, I'd F that woman just like that. She's hot. She's fucking hot. It was RuPaul. Now, this guy was a man's man. And, you know, we're kind of sitting there giggling because, you know, my ex-boyfriend and I knew. And we're both like, who's going to tell him? Who's going to tell him? And we told him, and he's like, oh, no, blah, blah, blah. And then he just totally flipped. And it's like, why? RuPaul is a beautiful woman. He represents well as a man, excuse me, and a woman. Okay. He really does. I mean, it's just, wow. And oh my God, I cannot, because it's so unfair. It's so unfair. But yeah, but he kind of blew a gasket, and it's just like, and I'm just looking at him, he's like, what? And I'm like, who cares? Yeah, Sammy said it. Rue is stunning. Rue is stunning. It's like, wow, so beautiful. But even outside of drag, it's just like his bone structure. He's just a very good looking person all the way around. So, but why do we judge? Why? Because they're different? Well, so what? I'm different. You can stand Sammy, older sibling, bestie, and myself all together, and guess what? We're all going to look different. We're all going to look different. You look at older sibling. Older sibling used to march for her gay friends because she says, back when she was protesting, there was a time where it's like people had to really hide their sexuality because they could be fired for it. They could be fired for it. You could stand all of us together and not one of us say a word and think, oh yeah, they're probably all from the same town. But then Sammy opens her mouth and out comes a Southern accent. And I only say that, Sammy, because the rest of us are basically from California. But you wouldn't think that, right? And then you're like, oh, okay, you sound different than the rest of them. And then there's me, right? I mean, I'm out of the four of us, I'm the most ethnic visibly. So I'm the thing that doesn't belong. They all have lighter hair and I have darker hair. But that doesn't make us any different from anybody else. Yeah, I remember, Sammy, the first time we talked on the phone, I was like, whoa, but I loved it. You reminded me of Sissy Joe when she would go to Georgia, 2 seconds in Georgia, and she's already fallen back into her drawl. But I love a good Southern accent. But yeah, it astounds me how we think we're so much better than everybody else that we can judge them. It astounds me to think that, we walk around acting like we can point fingers, hiding behind, fears that are pretty much unfounded. And then marginalize a group of people. Because see, here's the hard part. Even within the LGBT community, there are marginalized people. Like I said, there are people who, yeah, exactly what Sibling says. We all bleed red. We all bleed red. We all look the same on the inside. We all have a heart, lungs, kidneys. We all have a brain, although some people could use it a little bit better. But we all have a heart. We all have a soul. And we shouldn't be sitting here judging other people because, they're gay or they're lesbian or they're questioning or they're queer. The whole, these camps that they, beat the gay out of people. I shouldn't even quote because they beat the gay out of people. What are they called again? Sibling, I know you know this. She's like my dictionary today. But yeah, even Sammy, yeah, we all bleed red. We all bleed red. If you're it's like Martin Luther King said, we should judge people by the content of their character, not the color of their skin, right? Well, we should judge people just by the content of their character, not the way they identify. We can make the world a better place if we stop marginalizing people, gay or otherwise. No matter what color they are, no matter what religion they practice. I saw a lady the other day in a full Muslim dress, covered face and everything. And I was like, I think it didn't make me mad that she was wearing that. What made me mad was that, there's an extreme part of a religion that requires her to do this. Because I just seen a couple other girls who, yeah, they wore the headscarf, But they were just dressed. Like one was wearing shorts and slippers. The other one was wearing like leggings and a t-shirt, a really cute stitched t-shirt, I believe. And yeah, oh, I don't know. It's not a reconditioning camp. I can't remember what they're called. Oh, conversion therapy. That was it. Conversion therapy. Thank you. So conversion therapy. Mm-mm. And what I also don't understand is how parents can just disown their children. You know, there are some of us in this world that never had the opportunity to really become a parent. Okay? And then I see these people just throwing away their children because they don't conform to what they want, or because they're gay and they're worried their neighbors might say something. Fuck your neighbors, all right? Screw what other people think. If you can't love your own child because their sexuality, you're the problem, not them. You are. You know, yeah, exactly. Sammy's all, it's some kind of evil. If you ask me, yeah, it's straight up evil. Do not use God as an excuse to hate someone else. Do not. You know, I don't care whether you believe in God or not. I was raised a Catholic. I'm a lapsed Catholic, but it'll always be a part of me. Yes, I do tap into the metaphysical quite a bit and the spiritual arts, if you will. But I do believe in God. And a lot of my friends who, tap into the mystical arts, like Doctor Strange, right? They don't care. Some do, but some don't. And the ones that I'm closest to don't care. They're like, yeah, okay, that's your belief. I'm a polytheist. Okay, that's a whole different kind of flag. But I'm a polytheist, which means I believe in more than one God. And I believe in more than one way of worshiping. And I know I'm on my soapbox right now, but God, I just wish people could see people for who they are, let them be who they are, and just live their lives. Imagine how much better this world would be. I mean, here, I'm going to give you, this will be my last example because I really want people to think about this. During World War II, the Germans had a machine called the Enigma, and it was how they sent their secret codes. America figured out how to do their own codes with wind talkers, and wind talkers were Navajos. Their own language. No, people in Europe, well, all the fascist people in Europe could not figure it out because they had no idea, right? And there's no way in hell they could get close enough to find a wind talker to learn from. But here's the scary part. A wind talker was assigned a person, and if they were under threat of being caught, they had to shoot that person. And I think that probably left people with a big moral dilemma, because they didn't want the secrets out. I'm not sure if anybody ever had to do that, but yikes. All right. But they had the Enigma. So, okay, so I'm gonna sidebar here for a second. So Sammy says, I don't know the current stats, but at one point a few years ago, the homeless kid population mostly consisted of kids disowned by their parents due to their sexual identity. That both makes me angry and want to cry at the same time. Look, kids, all of you out there, all right, if any of you ever see this and you run into me on the street and you need a hug, I'll give you a mom hug, all right? I'm not the greatest aunt in the world, but when I am present, and my nephews are around because they're not in the same state, and some of them that are in the same state, they're too old and don't like auntie hugs, but you know what? I think I give pretty good mom hugs if I have to, in a pinch, right? In a pinch. And, I'll help mommy you. I will. No, not like that. But, because I get it. I can't imagine what it must be like. Sammy's right. It is truly heartbreaking. It is truly heartbreaking. And on that note, I'm going to go back to what I was talking about. So the Enigma machine that was created by the Germans was how they sent their secret codes, how they sent all their messages and everything. It's kind of like our version of the wind talkers, except it was a machine, not a human. And Alan Turing and his group of mathematicians was the one that figured it out. He's the one that cracked the code. Alan Turing was also gay. So not only did this man help us win World War II for his efforts, he got thrown into jail for being gay. I guess he was caught with another man, which apparently was punishable by jail. Now, he's since been exonerated long after his death. But if you ask me, that he's a hero. He's a hero. I think he would be very proud to know that if he walked today's world, he would basically be able to live the life he wanted to live. But I mean, you know, it was a good movie. I think it was The Imitation Game with Benedict Cumberbatch. I mean, it's Benedict Cumberbatch, come on. But no, it was a good movie. And I highly recommend it. And also just read about his story. But it was just, it's a miscarriage of justice to be thrown into jail just because you love someone who's the same sex as you, or, you know, you just have to closet yourself and not be free. And some people still feel this way. Some people still feel that they can't, you know, be who they are because they're afraid of being disowned. They're afraid of not, you know, having the same love or being looked at differently. And so they hide. And we shouldn't be that kind of people. If somebody's sexuality threatens your own, that's a you issue, not a them issue. So don't project, all right? Don't project onto them, because you're just hurting them and yourselves. You're not doing anyone any favors, and you certainly are not looking good. Everybody that throws a Bible at somebody thinking that they're doing God's work, I cannot wait. You know, when I die, all the people that die after me that are like that, I just want to tell St. Peter, you know, can I just stand here for a while and watch to see what happens? Providing I make it into heaven. Or wherever we all go. Wherever we all go on the other side, it's like, I would just love to see what happens. You know, because they're all sitting here going, oh, well, I'm the righteous one. No, you're spiteful and you're hateful and you're weaponizing the Bible. Jesus would have hugged that person that you abandoned. Jesus would have loved that person that you kicked to the corner because they're gay or a lesbian or transgender. Don't weaponize the damn Bible for your own needs. The Bible was written by a bunch of men interpreting the Word of God. I truly believe God is not a God to be feared. I believe God is a God of love and kindness. I mean, granted, Jesus was raised by a human mother and a human father, but, you know, however you want to put that. I know I'm going kind of biblical on you guys, and I'm sorry, but think about it, right? You know, I mean, Jesus was a hippie, straight out. I would say more of a flower child, really. But because he wasn't, you know, but he was like a hippie flower child. He loved everybody. It was as older sibling told me before. She's all, Jesus would have washed their feet. He would have. So the next time you want to weaponize the Bible, don't. Think about it. Okay, just think about it. And to all the moms and dads out there who have shunned other people because they love their children, bless you. Bless you. Bless you for choosing your children over what other people think. Yeah, the Bible says that God, okay, so Sammy says the Bible says that God is love, and yep, Jesus was a flower child. So see, and Sammy goes to church, so I'm, you know, so there we have our biblical, you know, what are they called? Analyst. We have a biblical analyst here. So, you know, but yeah. So, you know, everybody always talks about Sodom and Gomorrah, right? But sodomy is sodomy, period. Man or woman, man, woman, it's possible. God made man made sex toys. Ta-da! Men and women made sex toys. So, see, God doesn't care. And if you think I'm going to hell, you are so wrong. You are so wrong. They don't want me down there anyways. I'm too much trouble. So anyways, all right, I'm going to hang up now. I know, I said that yesterday. I'm going to hang up now. Maybe that's my new thing. I'm going to hang up now. But I'm going to let you go. All right, I've been rambling and I've been on my soapbox again, but it really does astound me while also hurting my heart. And after reading what Sammy said, that, the population of children that is so high is most of them who were disowned by parents. All for being gay or queer or trans, however you want to, all for being a part of the LGBTQ community. So I'm going to work on, we're going to do Stonewall again this week, and I'll probably do it maybe tomorrow. I know tomorrow's Self-Care Wednesday, but, sometimes we need a break, right? So there's only so much self-care I can teach you if you don't know self-care by now. So maybe we'll do that. I guess this is going to be Pride Week. Okay, this is Shelly Marie's Pride Week on the Aloha Perspective. All right. So yesterday I was on my soapbox about other things, but today, go the rest of the week. Today we did the flags, all 36 of these, and like I said, there's probably more out there. You can look it up, but it's like, wow, there's a lot. There is a lot. I had no idea how many there were, but I'm going to save these because, I think it's good to familiarize ourselves with these things, and love one another. That's the whole point of being a human, is to love one another. That's what the Bible says, love one another. So go out there and love one another. All right. Do it safely. Do it with respect and kindness. All right. So have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you tomorrow, back here tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. Pacific time, Facebook Live. All lives are public. Anybody can watch. I don't know if Bestie and older sibling are still on, but I know sibling has physical therapy this morning. So, but thank you for watching. Sammy, as always, thank you for popping on when you can. I appreciate it. She's basically my co-host, right? She's my side analyst. The color analyst of my play-by-play. So anyways, thank you again, everybody, so much for watching, and I will see you tomorrow. Have a wonderful day.